All right, here we are. Welcome to this special edition of the live coverage of the NFL Draft here at Benchwarmers Restaurant. Nate Mullins, Greg Kinn, and Joey Krajewski. Did I get that right?
Krajewski.
There we go. Oh. All right, so now I'm not messing it up anymore.
Yeah, I'm messing it up too much. Sorry about that.
All right, so welcome to the broadcast. We're watching the draft. It's going to be a very laid-back atmosphere today. We're going to kind of break down some things. I've got some notes that I want to go over. We're going to break down the first couple of rounds that have already happened, and then we will talk about, obviously, the picks as they come in. But we're not going to break down every single pick and analyze. Don't think we're going to get Mel Kiper's coverage here. That's not what's going to happen. So, once again, Nate Mullins, Greg Kinn, Joey Krajewski joining you live from Benchwarmers. First of all, let's introduce Joey to the program. Joey, thanks for coming on with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Heck yeah. So, what interested you in what we got going on? Because, I mean, you reached out to us wanting to get involved, come on board.
Yeah, so obviously, I coach football for Columbian, so I'm up in the box. You guys sit right in front of us, so I know who you guys are. And then once Calvert started basketball, my brother was on the team, and sometimes I couldn't make the games, conflicting schedules, and then I saw you guys on Facebook streaming the games, started watching them. Obviously, you guys have a really good production, stuff like that. And then a couple weeks ago, you put out a thing about people working for you, stuff like that. So, and obviously, I love sports and stuff like that. And instead of, annoying my girlfriend talking to her about it 24/7, I like to talk about it with some guys. So
that's cool.
Kind of as a fitting role for me. So
well, heck yeah. So I mean, I think it's kind of a match made in heaven because I feel like I've been following you on Facebook the last few weeks, and like I see your posts. And a lot of the stuff you post is similar to what we're already following. So, I mean,
yeah,
you got your breakdown and analysis of the first 3 rounds of the draft. You're a big Browns fan.
Yeah, huge Browns fan.
Just like us. So, I mean, it fits in really well. So, we're going to figure out a way to kind of work with your schedule because, I mean, you're a high school football coach.
Yep.
So, obviously, you won't be working with us for high school football, but we'll find a way to work you in some way. And we are happy to have you on the board.
Perfect. Happy to be here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's get started. Browns are on the board, and the selection is in. We'll talk about the pick when they announce it, but then we'll talk about all of their picks afterwards because, they had 3 of them yesterday.
Great.
There
pick.
we go. That
Great
was
pick.
huge. That's
Great
huge.
pick.
That's a big pick for them.
That was the number one guy I wanted today.
Perion Winfrey, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. You want to talk about energy? This dude has a motor that does not stop. Explosive at the point of attack. He's always around the ball, always in the backfield. He's a menace.
Looks like a monster.
He really is. And this was the guy that I wanted. I really had him highlighted on my draft board as the guy that if they take anybody here at the top of the 4th, this is the guy I want because they need defensive tackle help, and this is going to be huge for them.
Oh, yeah.
So, once again, pick is in. Perion Winfrey from Oklahoma. They're showing some of the stats now. 29 quarterback pressures in 2021. I mean, he gets to the quarterback, and he can make things happen. And we have Todd bringing in some delicious food for us here.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We have food from Benchwarmers. Once again, we're here at Benchwarmers. We're set up outside. It is a beautiful day for an outside patio party. We've got 4 open tables out here. So, folks, if you're tuned into the broadcast and you're watching us live here on Heart of Ohio Sports, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you're watching, come join us. We are out here on the patio. It's a beautiful day. I would say not a cloud in sight, but there's plenty of clouds. But just, it's beautiful. Come on out here, have some food, and watch the draft with us. We're just hanging out, having a good time. Once again, we got some cheese curds and some pretzels here from Benchwarmers. Yeah, let's get these guys going here. Let's see what we got here. So, cheese curds, pretzels. Of course, cheese curds are Greggy's favorite.
Can't beat it, man. That's my number 1 draft pick, the cheese curds.
Now, the pretzels, that's one of our family favorites. Every time we come here as a family, my sons absolutely love the pretzels, especially Gabe. He's allergic to milk and eggs, so he really likes the honey mustard, which is probably the main reason why I tried it to begin with. And it is probably my favorite honey mustard that you can get anywhere. They make it in-house. A lot of their stuff is made fresh in-house. Like the marinara sauce, for example, for the cheese curds, made in-house fresh. All their house sauces, they're made in-house fresh. And, everything that they do, they try to find a way to make it local and make it fresh. I was talking to Brandon, which the owner, Brandon Bankshear, he'll be on with us later, sometime around 1 o'clock. But I was talking with him before the broadcast, just kind of going over some things and like, what do you want us to promote? How do you want us to promote you? Because we want to really spread the word, because I love this place. I come in here all the time with my family. This isn't just me promoting them because they're a sponsor. This is me promoting them because, I mean, this is a genuine business that I frequent. So I'm trying to get people more aware of such a quality establishment and get you out here and help. I mean, come join us. Watch the draft with us. Have a good time. But once again, locally sourced is one of their things that they are trying to promote. Brandon was talking about how they've acquired some land in the area, and they're trying to use that land as an experiment this year to try to locally grow their own produce.
Really?
So that they can have locally grown produce for all of their salads and their sandwiches and wraps and everything. So
that's pretty.
I'm
sweet.
pretty excited to partner with them. I've worked here for a little bit of time before my time as a youth football coach. I helped them out with some deliveries, some serving hours. And then when I took over as coach of the Eagles, I just didn't have time for it anymore. Yeah. So, but these are great people and absolutely a quality establishment. So once again, come on out here, join us at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. So we're here for the NFL draft. Let's get into the first round. Let's talk about what happened in the first round, because some of these listeners out there, they might not be familiar. It was kind of an uneventful day for Browns fans, day one of the NFL draft. And then again, on day 2, we had to wait even longer for our first draft pick. But let's talk about it. Joey, you had a really nice breakdown of each pick and like your sleepers, your winners, your losers in the draft. And let's talk about that first round of the draft here. What's your thoughts?
So, I mean, it was if you're a football fan, it was exciting because there was a lot of trades, a lot of stuff happening. Browns fans, obviously, it was boring because we didn't have a pick for the Deshaun Watson trade. But there were some surprising picks, to say the least. I think that the first overall pick, Travon Walker, that was an interesting pick, interesting choice. I mean, I get it. He was on that Georgia defense, one of the best defenses of all time in college football history per statistics. But, the guy was never all conference, so he's never all SEC, never all American, and yet somehow was the first overall pick in the draft.
It was puzzling to me because I was watching it and I'm like, they're really going to do this, aren't they?
Yeah. And
they're going to skip the obvious pick and take the guy that it's all potential. That's what you're looking at here.
And I mean, I get it. I get the potential, but I mean, when you're the Jaguars and you really haven't been, I mean, they had the one season where they were Saxonville and stuff like that. I think that was 2016, 2017 era.
Talking about almost 5 years ago now.
Yeah. But I mean, they haven't been relevant since. I mean, that's back-to-back years with number 1 picks, and they go take a guy on potential rather than not. I mean, if it was me, you just drafted a quarterback last year, I would have gotten one of the tackles because, I mean, those tackles were, just absolute monsters. I mean, those top 4 or 5 tackles, those all could have been the number 1 pick. But, I mean, that was just a head-scratching pick, very head-scratching. Obviously, Hayden Hutchinson, easy pick. I mean, granted,
that was a no-brainer.
No-brainer. I'm an Ohio State fan, but, that dude was an absolute monster.
I think the Lions pretty much ran to the podium with that.
Yeah, that was the fact. You hear the rumors about how the NFL tells you to wait the full 15 minutes and stuff like that to put the pick in. There was no way Dan Campbell, he was biting off the kneecaps to get to the podium. So
on his way to the podium.
Yeah, that was crazy. And it's a good story. Aiden's from Michigan, grew up just outside of Detroit, went to Michigan. So good story. I hate Michigan, but now that he's a Lion, I got some buddies that are Lions fans. So good for them. I think he's going to do great there.
It's like some homegrown talent there from Michigan.
Yeah, and that dude's a freak of nature. He's like 6'5", 6'6", 270 pounds, and just, that's unreal that people are that big and fast nowadays.
Reminds me of like a Bosa brother light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're in the 97, Big Ten defensive end,
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of sacks.
Exactly. Yeah, I saw Pro Football Focus, one of their reporters put out a thing that he's more athletic than the Bosa brothers. I don't know where you get that from, but some guy gets paid way too much money to just throw out hot takes and not believe in them. So gotta love it. But yeah, there were some other ones. I thought the Drake London pick at 8 by the Falcons was a little iffy.
That was a stretch.
You had all the receivers on the board, and then you go Drake London, who he's got the NFL body, so he's good red zone target and stuff like that. But I just thought, he didn't really create like the separation that, Chris Olave did, Garrett Wilson, Jamison Williams. I mean, those guys, when you watch them on tape, you're like, okay, he should not be in college. Whereas you watch Drake London, he's still kind of figuring out his role, which I'm going to assume it's one of those potential picks where they're kind of forecasting him as what he could be. But, I mean, when you're coming off a season like they had, I mean, you're a top 10 pick for a reason, let's be honest. And then you don't have Calvin Ridley because of the gambling issues and stuff like that. So I would have gone a more for sure guy. My guy was Garrett Wilson at the top of my board, which the Jets grabbed him up, which I think is obviously going to help Zach Wilson a lot.
Oh, that's a Ravens pick right there.
They've been killing this draft.
They have absolutely been killing. And this dude was one of it's 6'8", 384 pounds.
Shoo.
This dude has been on, you probably have seen highlight films of him as a high schooler.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of those dudes that he stands out everywhere he goes. Obviously, 6'8", almost 400 pounds, but he just moves the pile. He moves people. He's a big dude doing big things, and that is a Ravens pick if I've ever seen one. I mean, they're killing this draft, like you said, Joey. I don't like it at all.
No, I don't.
Like it at
but
all.
As a football fan, I'm going to be honest. Like they're the Ravens for a reason. I mean, they do this every year. They have great draft class. They develop their guys great, and it is what it is. They're the Ravens, and they'll always be the Ravens. As much as it sucks for Browns fans, we just got to figure out a way to match it.
Right. So let's talk about. Let's go. Still going on with round one here. What was your kind of surprise pick? Obviously, you talked about the Drake London pick and Travon Walker. I think it surprised a lot of people. But what was the one pick you think where really the team had no business taking this guy in the first round, let alone where they took him?
Oh, it's got to be the New England Cole Strange pick, the guy from Chattanooga. I mean, I don't want to be.
Did you see the reaction from Les Snead?
Yeah, I don't want to be Sean McVay up here just laughing at him. It's still Bill Belichick, but shoof, that's a stretch. That's a stretch, but that's the same thing. I mean, they're the Patriots for a reason, so they must see something in them that nobody else saw. So,
do they not have another pick for another 5 rounds? Like, this guy could have been there probably day 3.
Yeah,
easy,
I haven't. I'm not a big Patriots guy, but I thought they picked in the second, and they might have picked only in the third and fourth round. But yeah, that was a tough one, and I thought there were a lot better guards on the table too than a guy from Chattanooga. Which I don't watch much Chattanooga football, so I could be wrong. But
Nick Mangold, former Buckeye, right there.
Buckeye legend.
So going on with the first round. Excuse me here. Pretzel's coming up here. So we're talking about this first round, and there's a couple of guys that kind of stood out to me that were really good value picks. The first one, I think Kayvon Thibodeaux should have been the number 1 pick in this draft.
Oh my
Coming out in the draft process, I have no idea how he went from the top guy to the number 5 pick in this draft, but I really feel like the Giants absolutely hit a home run with both of their first-round picks, 5 and 7. Mm-hmm. Evan Neal was the best offensive lineman in the draft, and Thibodeaux, I still feel like, is the best freak athlete in this draft. You talk about the way he can get off the line, it's uncanny. It's almost like Myles Garrett-ish.
Oh, my gosh.
It's just crazy how fast that dude gets off.
From what you heard from 2020 all the way through about February this year is that Kayvon Thibodeaux is the for sure clear-cut number 1.
Yeah.
And then the Combine comes around, and then obviously Aiden came in and kind of battled him with the year he had because Kayvon battled some injuries and stuff like that. But, dude, Thibodeaux's a freak of nature. He was the number 1 overall recruit in high school coming out.
Yep.
Comes out. Did he underperform? But, when you put those expectations on somebody, you can't live up to that all the time. But, what the Giants did at 5 and 7 was impressive. Impressive. For an organization that usually stinks, sorry, Giants fans, those were 2 solid picks, one for Daniel Jones and also for Saquon Barkley.
Oh, for sure. Because, that Evan Neal's going to clear some space for Saquon
monstrous
Barkley.
Human.
And he had a lot of trouble finding any room last year. That was a big problem for him. He averaged less than 4 yards a carry. You're talking about a guy who, 2 years ago, you're all-pro running back.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's just crazy to me that they didn't see that need before this year. But, they've got a pretty solid front office, coaching staff that they're put together there with Brian Dable and what they're trying to build. So I think that's a great draft for them.
Great foundation pieces.
another guy who I thought, I hate to say this, but just absolutely great value here was Kyle Hamilton.
I was just about to say that.
I mean, dude, I really thought this kid was right there neck and neck with Kayvon Thibodeaux as the best defensive player in this draft. You talk about his height, the size, the speed, the intangibles that he brings to the game. I mean, he's a guy that I don't know how he dropped to 14, but he should have been a top 10 pick. I think a lot of this run on defensive linemen and the run on wide receivers, it kind of had teams forget about him in the process. Yeah. And he just seemed like the no-brainer all along. And when the Ravens came up, I said, they're going to take Hamilton, watch.
Yep.
And I looked at my wife, I said, I was happy that they didn't get Jordan Davis, because at 13, I was sweating. I'm like, Jordan Davis is going to fall to the Ravens. And then the Eagles got that pick. They traded up. They took Jordan Davis. Now, I posted last night, I thought that's where he was going to go, but originally I wanted him to go to the Browns.
Yeah, sheesh, I wish. That'd be awesome.
Combine performance. I mean, that dude, he vaulted himself into the top 15 with his combine performance. But, Kyle Hamilton was another one of those guys that kind of stuck out to me as huge value for who got him. Yeah. What about you, Joey? Any other guys in the first round, maybe late first round that kind of
good one value? I had was might have been a slip, but also a great pick, again, by the New York Jets. Jermaine Johnson II from Florida State.
Huge.
I had him as my third best edge rusher. That guy is, he was on Last Chance U, if any remember, with Coach Jason Brown.
He didn't get as many appearances because he's not much of a character. No. He's just a football player.
Yeah, but that guy is, if turn on the tape from Florida State, that guy is that guy's a monster. I mean, the Jets that first round had a near perfect draft with what they got. I mean, you got Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson II, and getting Jermaine Johnson in the mid-20s.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just crazy. But, again, we saw that run of wide receivers, the early run of D linemen, offensive tackles and stuff like that, where he just kind of kept slipping back. Jets got aggressive, trade up and got him. I mean, that's awesome pick for him, and he's going to be long player in the NFL, very long player in the NFL.
So there you have it. That's pretty much the breakdown of the first round of the NFL draft. We went through, the top 32 picks there. What'd you think about the Kenny Pickett? I mean, the Kenny Pickett pick for Pittsburgh, he's a guy that I thought would be in play for Pittsburgh at 20. And I didn't know who else they had their eye on, but I think he was their pick all along. I really do. I think they thought he was going to fall to them. They did the most research on him, obviously, because he's in their backyard.
Yeah.
They really didn't have to scout him much as far as, in the draft process. So they knew what they had in him. And I think system-wise and organization-wise, it's a good pick. But as far as the player, the talent that Kenny Pickett brings to the table, I don't know why, but he just reminds me of Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe it's the gloves. Maybe it's the stature in the pocket. But he doesn't seem to me like the kind of guy that can take you to a championship and win games for you when you need to win games. He's
that's the tricky part, is because he doesn't have that moxie that a championship quarterback would have. That swagger, that thing that brings those because in the NFL you need star players around you, and you just don't feel that off him. But I mean, it's an odd year for quarterbacks because, in my opinion, if it was last year or this upcoming year, I don't see him as a top 5 quarterback in the draft. But it's just the way it is now. But
was he your top quarterback on the board?
Oh yeah, I was not huge on Malik Willis, the Carroll kid out of Ole Miss.
I liked him before he got hurt.
Yeah, it was just one of those years where just not quarterbacks. Now I think Kenny was clear cut number 1, which is why you saw the other two didn't get drafted till the 3rd round. So, but I mean, Steelers needed a quarterback. They went and got the best one in the draft. Smart play by them, but I just don't. If I was them, I mean, you have 2 veteran quarterbacks on roster. I mean, I would have at least let Mitch Trubisky play a year, maybe give Mason Rudolph a chance, or let him battle it out in camp, figure it out.
Right.
But man, they got a lot of holes to fill, and I don't think that really covered up any of the holes. So interesting, but then again, the Steelers are the Steelers for a reason. As much as I hate it, as a Browns fan, they've been beating up on us for 2 decades. It seems like
a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of gotta not trust them, but you almost gotta. They picked them for a reason. I mean, but a lot of those top tackles were off the board, but we saw a lot of them go in the 3rd and 4th round too. A lot of the tackles have been going. So, but they also need help in the back end. I think they need help at linebacker. Their D-line's obviously great with T.J. Watt. Receivers are always really good, but the O-line, quarterback, back end of the defense is what really needed help. They've solved one of them with the best quarterback in the draft. So, I guess if you're a Steelers fan, you called a great pick. If you're anybody else, you kind of look at it and go, what are you doing? But,
Right. So, I mean, were there any other guys that stood out to you in the first round that were kind of head scratchers? Like, obviously, we talked about the New England pick. Kenny Pickett, to me, was kind of a head scratcher. But before we move on to the second round, like, anything that stood out to you?
I guess the only one that, if you look at what it is, Treylon Burks to Tennessee, but the only reason they drafted him is because, they traded A.J. Brown, gave him to Philadelphia.
You traded A.J. Brown for Treylon Burks?
Yeah, and then you look at
much value there.
Yeah, then you look at Treylon Burks' pro comparison, and it's A.J. Brown. So make that make sense. I don't really know what they were thinking there, but that was just kind of one of those confusing ones that I didn't really understand. Then the Ravens drafting the Tyler Linderbaum. That's who I thought was going to draft either Devin Lloyd or Jermaine Johnson based on just their defense and what they want. I thought Devin Lloyd could have been their next Ray Lewis. He goes to Jacksonville, but Tyler Linderbaum, I thought, he was a late first round, early second round guy. He went in that 25 spot in the first round. But that was just two of those that were kind of like, I don't really know if I would have done that, but granted, I'm not the guy getting paid millions of dollars to make draft picks and scout them all year, so.
Right.
What do I got to say?
That's kind of how I feel sometimes when I start talking about, I don't know why they did that. Well, they got a reason, trust me.
There's always a reason, and when it comes down to it, they're getting paid millions of dollars to do what they do, and we're here, so
that's right.
Kind of got to listen to them sometimes.
Well, and I heard a bunch of Browns fans yesterday, especially when they made their first pick, like, who's this guy? I don't know who this guy is. What are they doing?
I've seen some
Why didn't they
comments.
pick this guy? It's like, you have no idea what their plans are for this guy. They got enough cornerbacks. No, I don't think you do. In a passing league, you need plenty.
Yeah,
and they had a lot of guys go down with injuries last year. And you had A.J. Green pressed into starting duty at one point. I mean, you need depth at the cornerback position. So I don't mind that pick at all.
No,
and
not at all.
He was on some boards. They had him anywhere from first to third round. So I don't mind it.
Yeah, and it was one of those confusing picks at me, but then once you start looking into it from the Browns front office, I mean, you got Greedy on his contract year, who's been battling injuries, hasn't really been the most consistent player, and then you look at Martin Emerson as a player. I mean, the dude didn't allow a completion over 25 yards last year.
Wow.
So, I mean, that dude is a freak. And granted, obviously, we got Denzel Ward, who's our premier shutdown corner, which is going to help. I mean, Martin Emerson learn the game. I mean, granted, NFL is different. Like, you got to learn how to play in the NFL. So he's going to play that boundary corner role for him. And I mean, that dude is a freak athlete. You turn on that tape, poof, freak athlete. That guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Pick sixes everywhere.
So you talk about the first round. Let's talk about the second round a little bit, because the Browns fans, once again, had to wait until pick 44 to then find out they had to wait some more. So we get to the 44th pick, and then they trade back with, guess who? Houston.
Yeah, apparently that's the only team we're allowed to trade with.
Well, they do have a pretty good relationship with them, you know? Like,
I mean, they did give us a premier quarterback, so give them a pick or two extra. It is what it is. I think we ended up well, but yeah, that was frustrating. I mean, we had Nakobe Dean and David Ajabo sitting right there. I was licking my chops, and then we traded back, and
George Pickens going the very next pick
that
to
was
the Steelers.
Heartbreaking.
That's the guy I wanted in the second round. I'm like, oh, he's still there. My guy's still there. Oh, nope, never mind. And then he goes to the Steelers.
Yeah. And it tells you it would have been a great pick. I mean, the Steelers, as much as I dislike them, they're the best wide receiver drafting team in the league.
For sure.
So it obviously would have been a great pick if we would have grabbed him there. And granted, he's had those off-the-field issues and stuff like that, but that dude would have been a first-round pick without any issues or injuries.
Yeah. So now we're into round two. Any kind of surprises that really stood out to you in round two? Because, I mean, there was a few head-scratchers, but for the most part, I think guys pretty much fell where they thought they were going to. I mean, maybe some guys went in the first round that should have went second round. Second round, most of the guys pretty much fell where they were supposed to, I feel like. I seen Daniel Jeremiah when they were doing like the top 50 picks. When they got through 50, they were looking at him yesterday, and he had 41 out of the 50 right in the top 50.
Really?
So that's crazy. That's why I feel like a lot of these guys, with the COVID year, there wasn't enough tape on these guys to really do a whole lot of digging and find those like diamonds in the rough and those gems that you're looking for. So what happened is a lot of the main guys ended up being the top guys on your board.
Right.
And you don't really get those sleeper picks that creep up into the second round or first round as much because you don't have the same amount of research that you did before. So that's kind of what I feel like happened. But
yeah, I mean, the only one that was a head scratcher to me was the Kenneth Walker pick to Seattle.
I was going to say the same
I mean,
thing.
they have when I get it, Chris Carson's been battling injuries the past 2 years, but you still have Rashad Penny there.
And he broke out last year.
Yeah, and then you need, I mean, they have lots of holes to fix. I mean, lots of holes to fix, and then you go draft a running back. It was just one of those things that didn't make sense as well. I mean, the Jets did the same thing. I mean, they just drafted Michael Carter last year. They went and drafted another running back when they have blatant holes to fix, but Jets will be the Jets and the Seahawks will be the Seahawks, I guess. And then the other one I had that was a head scratcher was Wendell Robinson to the Giants when they just drafted Kadarius Toney last year, they're almost identical players. I mean, if you turn on the tape, size, height, speed, their production they put out in college, they're almost identical players, and yet Kadarius Toney didn't work out well with them last year. So that was just one of those things where I was like, don't know if I love it, but it's one of those things where head scratchers, man. Don't get it.
Well, and honestly, I'm watching the second round of the draft, and as a Browns fan, I'm sitting here going, is this where Baker gets traded? Is this when he gets traded?
That's what I was thinking.
Are we going to trade Baker tonight? Like, what's going on? And I don't know what happened, but they didn't trade him.
So once I saw that Seattle had 2 picks there back-to-back, I figured we were going to trade Baker for one of those picks, and then hopefully I thought we were going to take a Jabba with one of those picks and then trade our 44th pick and move back in the draft.
You really think Baker's worth that much?
I think that the situation that Seattle's in, I think they would have given up a second-round pick. I'm sure we would have had to throw a pick in there, probably one of our 7th-rounders as well.
We would have had to eat his salary if we would have got a second-round pick back. I think we would have had to eat most of his salary.
Yeah, but I mean, you can call it cap space. What those GMs do now, cap space is fake. I mean, they just turn it all into signing.
It's a myth. It's a myth. I swear.
That stuff's fake. I mean, they just give them. You're on a $43 million contract. They give you $40 million on a signing bonus and pay you $3 million a year. And how does that work? But
when you have a rich owner,
yeah,
you can play with that.
Just have Jimmy Johnson sell another plane business or whatever he's got and make another $10 billion and sign another guy. But it's crazy. I mean, but yeah, I really thought the Browns were going to get rid of Baker. I think he still might go today. I mean, the Browns don't have a 5th rounder. So we'll see what they can do. But, I mean, worst comes to worst, I don't really know what the situation is. I mean, maybe we keep him and let him sit out a year. I mean, but that would kind of devalue him, which would make it worse on our end. Do we cut him, pay the $18.5 million, and let somebody else sign him at probably a league minimum, I would guess? Or do we just kind of play it by ear with him? I mean, it's one of those sticky situations that I don't think anybody's kind of dealt with in a long time.
Yeah, it's really weird. And the Browns didn't do themselves any favors by not trading him before they made that trade.
Yeah.
They should have made that trade before they made the trade for Watson. Then, you're in a situation where you can maybe deal him to a team without them knowing that you don't really need him.
Exactly.
Because that's the situation you're in right now. Most teams in the league know you're going to have to cut him.
Exactly.
I mean, we don't have to trade for him. We don't have to give you anything if we don't want to.
Yeah. And
so,
that's a tough spot to be in.
Spot to be in. It makes it hard. So, I mean, we'll see what happens today. But from my perspective, I still think, I don't know, man. I feel like we're stuck with him. I think the Browns are going to end up either A, eating his salary and cutting him before training camp, or B, they'll keep him on the roster and he'll just sit the rest of the year and be a free agent next year. I don't see a scenario where a team will trade for him and give up any kind of value for him. And the Browns don't want to just give him away for nothing if they have to pay him. That's the issue we're dealing with. That's why it's a stalemate between the Browns and the other 31 teams in the NFL. Like, I mean, I know there's people out here who want Baker Mayfield as a quarterback, whether it's a backup or starting role. But he has value in this league. But the problem is the Browns have backed themselves into a corner with this whole situation, and the league knows it. And that's why they're not giving up anything for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to tell me that the Seahawks would rather start Drew Lock or Geno Smith over Baker Mayfield. Like, come on.
No.
It's one of those things that it's going to be a waiting game. So, and you're right. The Browns are just in a tough spot where we're just going to end up probably eating all that $18.5 million and either cut him or he's going to be hanging out in Lake Travis all fall.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to be the more likely scenario is he ends up just kind of hanging out, and they're going to pay him anyway. And I don't think they want him to end up on another team that they have to play.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want to have to deal with that headache unless that team gives them something for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't blame him. If I'm the Browns GM here, I'm playing chicken until the end of the year with the rest of the league. I'm not doing anything. If I got to pay this guy, he's going to stay on my roster unless somebody gives me something for him. I'm not just going to cut him.
Yeah.
That'd be the stupidest move they could make because, well, I don't think he'd sign with Pittsburgh or anything because they just drafted
Kenny Picket. Yeah.
But you could end up seeing him sign with somebody like, Indianapolis. Maybe he sits a year behind Matt Ryan and learns. Then you have to play him in a couple of years. I just don't want to see a situation where I know the kind of player Baker Mayfield is. And if he played the Browns, he's going to bring everything that he has into that game. Oh, my gosh.
I would hate that game more than anything.
But I will say this. He also shows that in those kind of games, he's a spaz.
Yes.
So who knows what kind of Baker you're going to get. Yeah, he's all fired up, but it's also overthrowing every receiver by 20 yards.
Yeah.
So
you saw that primetime Christmas Day game against the Packers, and that was just an unreal meltdown that he had. I was 2 interceptions in the first half, 2 in the second half. I mean,
I feel bad about that performance, though, because, think about it. He was on COVID list for 10 days.
Yeah.
Hadn't practiced in almost 2 weeks. And then, the Browns trade back, huh? They trade their 118th pick, and they pick up a 4th-rounder next year from the Vikings.
And they got in the 5th round this year,
which they weren't another fifth. Oh, they got a 5th-round pick, which they were not in the 5th round this year. Yeah, correct. So now they still have one more 4th-round pick this year, and then they have a 5th-round pick coming up.
Yep.
As well as 2 6th.
1 6, 2 7.
2 7s. That's what it is.
That
2
pick
7s.
124.
Because you got a 7 for who'd you get? Oh,
the
Keenum.
Oh yeah, yep.
From the Bills.
Yep.
So there you have it. Browns trade back.
Trust AB.
Oh, for sure. Honestly, I think this is a draft where AB kind of looks at it and says, "There's more value in the UDFAs than there is in the draft."
It's going to be crazy. I mean, it's a very odd – we haven't seen a draft like this in a long time where it's not quarterback loaded. It's not edge rusher loaded. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you're loaded with receivers, but you're deep too. So you don't need to get aggressive and go get guys. I mean, we got Bell at the 99th pick last year, and that dude was arguably one of the best non-Ohio State receivers in the country last year. Yeah. So it's a crazy draft, but – I think there's a lot of value in the UDFAs, and I just think the Browns, I mean, they have holes on their roster, but they're not blaring holes that we need to fix right now. I mean, the only one was kind of that issue at quarterback. I mean, obviously we got that fixed with Deshaun Watson. Granted, we're not sure if he'll be suspended or not, so we'll see. We got 2 really good backups in Jacoby Brissett and Josh Dobbs, but we'll see. I don't think they really have any blaring holes. I think the picks that they've had kind of really sealed some good stuff up, and the pick of Winfrey that's huge for our D-line. That is huge for our D-line.
For sure. So, Greg, I really didn't get a chance to really talk to you about much.
I've just been enjoying this food out here.
I see you getting down.
I told you we got here early, and just that's all I could think about when you smelled it in the kitchen cooking.
Oh, those cheese curds are so good. So let's talk a little bit about this Deshaun Watson trade. As a Browns fan, I haven't really had a chance really to talk about this at all, and we're not going to see the Browns pick again for another 40 picks. So I mean,
they're 129. They should be.
Oh, are they 129? Yep. Oh, that's right.
124. Sorry.
So yeah, 6 more picks they'll pick again, but in the meantime, I mean, let's talk a little bit about that Deshaun Watson trade. What's your thoughts on this, Greg? So as a Browns fan, obviously there's a lot of outside noise, and this is a very delicate subject, I will say. So tread lightly the way, obviously I don't have to tell you that. You're fine, but it's a situation where as a Browns fan, I want to be excited because we just traded for a franchise quarterback, which I think is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL when he's healthy. I I don't know. I kind of feel dirty in a way. Don't you? A little
Well,
bit?
I kind of feel like people like to speak on this a lot without knowing all the facts. I mean, you just see a headline flash here, there, and a little, Facebook story, a news article here and there, and you see the headline, and then you just jump all over that. But, I mean, I'm the kind of guy who believes in, innocent until proven guilty sort of things. I'm not saying that the guy's completely innocent. I'm not saying I don't feel a little dirty, because I do feel a little dirty. But at the end of the day, you have to see what the law says about things. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not the guy to talk about that kind of stuff. But to have a franchise quarterback in our hands is just something I've never felt as a Browns fan since we came back in '99.
Right. And as a Browns fan, I want to be excited. I want to get excited about this. But I feel like I'm not allowed to be excited, because the minute I start talking about him specifically as a person, it's just thrown in my face.
Mm-hmm.
Joey?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those odd situations, a very odd situation. And to speak on, I don't want to be on his side, but the odd part about it is you never heard about any of this till he requested a trade from the Texans.
I've said this the whole time.
and
it's just so it's convenient that the lawyer
I was just about
is the Houston Texans' neighbor.
Yeah, he's like best friends or something like that with the owner. I don't want to say anything bad, but it's a sketchy situation. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and Alex Jones and stuff like that, but it's a weird situation. It's a weird setup. Like Greg said, I mean, innocent until proven guilty. I mean, 2 different grand juries have tried to indict him, haven't been able to find enough evidence. And I don't know if you guys saw it. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, there were 18. I mean, this sounds bad. 18 other massage therapists that he had that came out and said that they have never experienced any of the stuff that they have with Deshaun Watson. They've all worked with him longer than the girls that have accused him with, and have never experienced that stuff. And the one thing is, they all gave out their names, which the girls that are accusing him will not give out their names, but these girls will give out their names to the public and stuff like that and back him, which I says that to me, that says more than girls that, or people that won't necessarily give out their names. So kind of hiding behind a lawyer.
I can't say one way or another how I really feel about the whole situation, because I mean, on one hand, I don't like to be a victim blamer. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that person who turns the finger on the person who's trying to find advocacy, trying to find help. Like I'm a strong believer in women's rights and advocacy and, domestic violence help. And like, I believe that if a woman if she's got a problem, she should be able to speak about it and not be doubted. That's a strong belief of mine. But at the same time, like, I also believe that there's a court process that decides these things. And this has not been decided in a courtroom at all. You're talking about conjecture. You're talking about hearsay. You're talking about he said, she said, this, that, and the other. And we have not seen any evidence. We have not heard anything. We've not seen any video evidence. We've not seen anything to make me believe that any of this is true. I have not seen anything. It's all been, he said this, she said that. Right. So until I see evidence, I have to believe what Deshaun says, because he's innocent until proven guilty.
Well, it's like you said, Nate. I'm also a strong believer in victims having their voice being heard. But to the other side of that, I'm also a strong believer in situations, like you said, being very fishy, skeptical, like situations where you could try to ruin a man's career. I believe just as much that could happen. So it's, you weigh on both sides of the scale here, and I believe that's what the court of law is for, is to give us the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have a tune. Listen, somebody's tuned in. It's like, are you eating between takes, really? Yes, that's what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
You going to let it get cold?
You got a problem with it? Come on down here and join us.
Crazy?
I want you to come order me some food, Eric. So, yeah, we're here at Benchwarmers. Come on out and join us. We got plenty of open tables out here on the patio. It's a beautiful day.
The sun tried to come out for a second. But
it did.
It's still nice out here, though.
Yeah, it did. I put my sunglasses on because I was having a hard time seeing, but now it's like, yeah, why you got your sunglasses on? It's not even bright out, you douche.
I love it. This is ideal weather for me. Ideal weather.
But, yeah, this is, once again, our 2022 NFL Draft coverage. We're here covering rounds 4, 5, and maybe some of round 6. We'll see. We're here until 2 o'clock. So from noon to 2, little bit of draft coverage here. We're going to step aside and take a momentary timeout, but when we come back, we'll have Brandon Bankshear, owner of Benchwarmers. He'll come on and join us here shortly. Once again, keep it locked in right here on Heart of Ohio Sports. You're tuned in for this special draft coverage here at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. All right, welcome back to our draft coverage here live at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. We have a special guest joining us on the program, Brandon Bankshear. Thanks for coming on with us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Appreciate your time. Obviously, a busy man. You're in there cooking right now in the kitchen. I mean, you don't get that kind of dedication from very many owners, so I take appreciation to that, being that I work for an owner who works in the kitchen, so I think that's awesome. So once again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we want to talk about what you got going on here, man. I mean, we're really happy to be here for the draft today. We want to first thank you for allowing us to come out here, set up, and enjoy your great food and obviously the good atmosphere you got going on here. But what are you trying to – I mean, you guys got a great thing going on here. 2 different locations now, one in Tiffin, one in Bellevue. I'm sure some people might not be familiar, but what do you want to talk about today? I mean, honestly, we talked a little bit off the air about what you wanted to promote. You talked about, the fresh, the local, the different aspects that we want to bring to the table. But I mean, you guys have a unique kind of family atmosphere that you guys have within your staff, within the building. A lot of the same familiar faces have been here since you started. So you're doing something right here, man. You're doing a lot of things right. And to be able to expand that franchise into Bellevue, I mean, you guys are doing a lot of really cool things, and I'm taking notice.
Yep. Well, thanks, Nate. Whenever you want to come on, just holler.
All right.
I've known Nate for years. We've always had a real good relationship. So anytime you need anything, man, just holler. We love that what you're doing and kind of your next venture and very exciting stuff. So we're glad to be kind of a partner with you and whatnot.
For sure.
But yeah, we have a lot going on right now. And actually, personally, I got a 3-month-old daughter, first kid, Peyton. She's awesome.
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome.
Yep. Adjusting
Proud
to life.
Papa.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, we do have a lot going on. Last February we opened up over in Bellevue, and what a lot of people don't know is we actually have a third facility in Bellevue. It's right across the street from our restaurant where we do all of our prep.
Oh, really?
I was talking to you, earlier. We make all of our wing sauces except one. The only reason we don't make that one is, quite honestly, they made a better wing sauce than we were able to come up with. So we just decided to do that. We make quite a few of our salad dressings. All of our meats are cooked from raw. We just try to go things about, a different way from a lot of your typical sports bars. A lot of times, food is an afterthought, and we just never really wanted to do that. So we kind of take pride in our prep and whatnot, and the fact that it got to a point where we couldn't really pull it off in our locations because, business is good, which is a great problem to have. So we found a third spot, and we do all of our prep. We're there 3 times a week, and just to try to maintain that product consistency, we're trying to set it up. The franchises are franchises for a reason. Product consistency is a big thing, and so we're trying to set it up with that model with the idea of opening more. We've started to kick it around a little bit, maybe a third town, so kind of working on that. Plus, we just got some land out here on Township Road 120, right on the outskirts of Tiffin.
This, I think, is really cool.
And so this year is kind of a test run. It's in between probably 1/8 and a half an acre this year. We're kind of testing a lot of different things out, but we're going to be growing all of our own produce, ideally for the whole year from both locations. We have a couple greenhouses we're going to be getting set up this fall. This summer, we're just doing call me a farmer, I guess. It's just the old school way of growing stuff, and we're going to practice, a couple different pickling recipes and stuff, and we're going to try to get to a point where we're ideally growing all of our produce ourselves, and that's a whole new learning experience. So actually right now is actually a good time to have me on because I actually have some stuff going on, so it's not just this lame, boring answer. So
no, man, that's
sweet.
I'm really excited because you guys have a lot of stuff going on, obviously, with your restaurant, but I mean the way you guys put together different events, the way you guys kind of you got a lot of things going on. Not just with your restaurant. Talk about you guys got some things going on for the summer coming up, right? I mean, This patio is a great atmosphere for whatever you want to do here, man. When I first started kind of doing business with you guys, I remember the cornhole tournament out here that was set up in the green grass area over here. I mean, you guys have some it's a unique setting. I'll just say that for what you guys are trying to do because you don't have a huge dining room, but you're able to accommodate so many guests at a time, and it's because of this unique setting that you have. Just talk about what you guys have coming up here on the horizon.
We will probably do a cornhole tournament probably late summer this year. Browns are picking. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go, Brownies. But yeah, we have a lot. Like you said, we have a lot of limitations, unfortunately, in the building that we're in. Just try to make it work. You know, the patio was kind of a necessity, so at least in the summer. Oh, there we go. Cade York, baby.
Kind of a reach for a kicker, but that's the best kicker in the draft.
Yeah, and I'd have to say, you know, McLaughlin, he started out good last year, but I think you need a strong leg to kick in Cleveland. And I think you kind of saw that as the season went, got a little colder. You know, he just seemed to start to struggle a little bit. You need a kicker that can kick a 50-yard field goal.
You saw it help the Bengals.
Yeah.
They just showed a stat. Cade York made 15 out of 19 field goals from 50 or more in his career at LSU. That was the most in school history. So
that's crazy.
I mean, he's got a leg already. And, you know, a lot of those college kickers, they come to the NFL and they add strength even more. So I think it's a good pick. I just don't know about the value that you're getting here, 4th round for a kicker, but it is what it is. They needed a kicker. They got a kicker. So that's our guy. Cade York. He's your new kicker, Browns fans.
Trust AB.
Well, hey, and
trust
AB. Like you mentioned, are the Bengals in the Super Bowl without McPherson?
Exactly.
Yep.
I'd rather take a kicker in the 4th than to take some guy that's going to, play specifically on special teams. I feel like this year, I think we got a legitimate chance, and I don't think I'm just being a normal dumb Browns fan. I think this is a year that we can actually make some serious noise. So.
I completely agree with you, man. I mean, I think they've went all in on this year specifically. Like, you think about next year when Deshaun Watson's real contract kicks in. This year, you're only paying him $10 million.
Yep.
As far as, like, against the cap. So you've got to find a way to make it happen this year, and they got to have a kicker in clutch situations. I really think that's like one of the most overlooked things when it comes to building a team. And we've seen it for the last however long it's been since Phil Dawson has left. The Browns have not had a consistent kicker since then. And every time we get in a situation where it's a game-winning situation or a game-tying situation, every Browns fan out there probably has no fingernails by the end of that situation. You know what I mean? Like, we're just so used to, all right, what's going to happen? He's either going to shank it or he's going to doink it or it's going to get blocked and return for a freaking touchdown on Monday Night Football. Like,
right.
I was there live. when the Ravens blocked our kick and took it back to the house. We were starting to walk out. Thought we were going to win. Went over to an aisle, stood there, watched that happen, and I was like, oh, this is the most Browns thing that I can think of.
Yeah.
Few years ago, though, that was a little darker times for us Browns fans. So at least things are looking up. And
things are looking up.
It's good that, we were 8-9 last year, and we're upset about it.
Right.
Yes.
How many years was 8-9, would we have accepted that? Yeah, definitely.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a big pick for them. They got their kicker. Now, my question is, do you see them maybe drafting a punter? Because I really like Matt Araiza. That's my dude. I want him so bad in a Browns uniform, but I just don't think that now that they drafted a kicker in the 4th round, do you draft a punter now? I mean,
I'm not sure. I'm actually not too familiar with I don't even know how to say his last name, but we signed that.
Oh, the guy from Seattle. That's right. Oh,
yeah. And he's actually, I had read
leg.
He's got a big leg. I heard he struggles a little bit with, corner kicking and whatnot, but I don't think it's out of his element to hit a 60-yard ball. And not that the Scottish Hammer wasn't good, but obviously there was some consistency things there. And then, obviously the awful fumble play or whatever had happened last year. So
the issue that I keep hearing about this new punter is that he can't hold. He's not a holder. So who's going to be the holder then? If this guy can't hold, because I don't want another Scottish Hammer situation like what happened before,
No, and that people don't realize how big that is. The long snapper and the holder, that really affects your kicker.
Yeah, what happened to using your backup quarterback as the holder?
Let's go back to the old days with Brissett holding.
I think Tony Romo happened.
Oh, great point. Because the quarterback is going to think, I got this.
Yeah.
If it's a backup punter, he's like, I'm just going to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Browns pick a kicker. we talked about their previous picks earlier this draft. They took the defensive tackle from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I saw that. Winfrey,
Huge.
yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perrion Winfrey, huge pick.
Yep. My guy Jake Maurer, he's been giving me all the updates and stuff. I mean, for what it's worth, he seemed to be pretty impressed. Thought that was a steal, and
Yes.
I don't know too much about him, so I'm not going to speak out of not knowing. But
He's a high motor guy.
trust the process.
Energy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Trust AB.
Yes,
I've heard you say it a few
Yep.
times. That's the
Yep.
motto of all Browns fans right now. Now, I got a question for you guys. Like, as a Browns fan, obviously I'm excited about Deshaun Watson. You guys are excited about this, but do you think, honestly, do you really think Andrew Berry made this trade? Do you think that this was his idea to go get Deshaun Watson, or do you think this was Jimmy Haslam saying, go get me that guy? Because I don't think this kind of move matches with Andrew Berry at all. Like, I just don't see this as an A-B move. It's just not in his – I don't think he liked Baker Mayfield. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that wasn't his guy from the beginning. But I also think – I don't think he makes that bold of a move without the owner kind of pushing him in that direction.
Yeah, I definitely.
That's just my perspective.
I definitely think the Haslams had something to do with it, but I'm also going to go out on a limb here and say I'm going to say Kevin Stefanski had something to do with it.
Ooh.
When he saw that, I mean, I don't want to call it a meltdown, but we were on track to make the playoffs. We were top 2, fighting for that top spot in our division for most part of the year. In that top 3 spot because the AFC North was pretty compact up there. But the way the end of the season, how that happened, how it kind of just like. It's almost like we ran out of gas. Like it just ended in such like an abrupt way, where we had a team this year. Like we had a team, maybe not to win a Super Bowl after seeing the Bengals and stuff like that, what they were able to do, even though we beat them twice. But
no, they did have a team that could have competed for an AFC championship.
Yeah,
game.
we could have competed, but just the way we sputtered out and stuff like that, I think it was time when it was like, okay, we need to go get our guy because the other 21 guys in the field are able to hold their own, and we got a Super Bowl roster. We just need that one piece, that quarterback, to really push us over the edge.
That's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, to echo a couple of your points, I do think Stefanski was probably very excited about getting somebody that can bring multiple levels. Yes. He's not just a great quarterback, but he can run as well. And when you got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in the backfield, I think to have that third element of this guy can run too.
Scary.
Imagine all 3 of those guys in the same backfield at the same time.
Yeah,
that's scary.
And I guess I'll talk Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry here. First off, Jimmy Haslam's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Billionaires are usually billionaires because they are competitive people.
That's right.
They do not like to be sitting at those meetings and have what do the Giants owners say? I'm sick of sitting at these hoity-toity events and having to explain why my team stinks, basically. Yep. And I think for Andrew Berry, I mean, this is kind of his chance, and I think everybody, including us Browns fans, we know that if you don't capture lightning in a bottle right now, how long until we fall back into that old school ways where we're, the culture's just not there. Right now, we're actually recruiting people to come to Cleveland, and Cleveland doesn't have a lot to offer when you're comparing it to like Los Angeles or New York, and the city does not recruit itself. So I think right now, even though I would agree with you 100%, I don't think Andrew Berry is the type of guy that would take that really risky move, especially with all the off-the-field stuff. You're going to get backlash from certain fans. But that being said, Andrew Berry probably wants to be a GM for a long time. Yeah. And if he can turn the Cleveland Browns around, I mean, name it what? New England's the only job he can't get because Belichick runs the whole show. I mean,
true.
So that's how I look at it. And I would say as a Brown fan, off the field stuff aside, I am very excited. We have never had a quarterback like this in my lifetime.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I remember as a young Browns fan. Now, I was born in '83, so I was 6 years old when Bernie made our last AFC Championship game. But I remember Bernie Kosar being the guy for the Browns. And I mean, when I remembered him, he wasn't a top 5 or top 10 quarterback, but he was still the guy. We haven't had that guy since then. And you want to say Baker, that's fine, but it was always question marks. It was always, can he do this? Can he do that? Bernie was 6'5". I mean, people forget how tall that dude was, but he didn't get batted passes at the line every 5 passes, that bugged the crap out of me about Baker. And there were so many things that, when they drafted him, I was upset. Greg, you were there when we were at the draft party, and me and Tommy both looked at each other like, oh, God, here we go again. Because I thought, here's another Johnny. You know, like I really did. Less than 6 foot quarterback, you know, like cocky, swagger, whatever you want to call it. But I just thought he was going to be another Johnny Manziel. He was better than Johnny. I'll give him that.
Turn the franchise around.
Yep. Took us to a playoff game, won a playoff game in Pittsburgh. And first game we won in Pittsburgh in 20 years, 30 years. So, like, it's a big deal to Browns fans what Baker was able to accomplish. But I just don't feel like, you know, we've had this kind of talent at this position, like you said, in a long time. This is a generational type quarterback. And, I mean, the frustrating thing for me as a Browns fan is knowing that all you had to do is turn in the damn card, and you had him in 2008 to 2017, you know, like you didn't have to trade away 3 first-round draft picks to get the guy. You could have both him and Myles Garrett both on the team at the same time.
Yep.
But then you wouldn't have Denzel Ward. You wouldn't have Nick Chubb. Those are 2 byproducts from that draft. So
yeah, and everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
You know,
for sure.
Maybe Deshaun comes here to
Hindsight's
Cleveland. Then we weren't the same team, and
True.
maybe we suck, and maybe Deshaun doesn't look as good, and we're asking the same question, and then we let him go, and then he goes and wrecks the NFL.
Well, it's like the same Browns fans who say, oh, we should have taken Pat Mahomes first overall instead of Miles. It's like, no, that year they know. There was no way anybody was taking Miles or anyone other than Miles that year. He was the clear-cut number 1 overall pick.
People were saying the Kansas City reached for Pat Mahomes.
Oh, I remember. I remember that for sure.
Yep. It's easy. Hindsight, 2020.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Easy to say things when you're not in the moment, but when there was quite a few teams that didn't even have first-round grade on the guy.
Right.
You know? Nobody knew he was going to be Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Andy Reid had a good feeling, but, yeah.
But, yeah, Deshaun Watson, I think, like you said, generational type quarterback, and I feel like we haven't seen that kind of quarterback in a long time. So I want to get excited about this. We were talking about it before you came on, Brandon. I kind of feel a little bit dirty getting excited about it because, you know, like – how are we supposed to feel until this thing shakes out and we know how everything kind of settles? We're still stuck in limbo here. We're still like, all right, well, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm going to root for the guy regardless, but I don't know.
Hey, call me grimy, man. call me grimy.
Football's football.
Yep. Hey, friends is friends, business is business. And
call me Frank Grimes.
Yep.
So, Brandon, once again, thanks for coming on. Anything else you want to talk about here? I mean, this has been a great conversation.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Like I said, anytime you're interested in doing anything, really, just let me know. I'm always here to help, and it's exciting seeing, we've known each other going on 5 years now, and it's exciting to see you do what you love to do. And anything you need, not that we're in the same genre, but I understand it's not easy, man. That everything kind of stops with you, and if you're not there to do it, then who's going to do it? So anything you ever need help with, man, I mean, I'm all ears. And like we had a phone conversation the other day. Even just having somebody to talk to and relate with you on certain things is just to make you feel like you're not crazy. Chris over at Madison's, he was always I would say an acquaintance at best, but it was nice having somebody a little younger that I could kind of bounce some random things off of. And Chris made me feel like, maybe the world's not falling down. Maybe some of this is normal, So
I'm telling you, dude, he is one of the most nicest, down-to-earth people you've ever met in your life. And he's always there for anybody. He wants to help any business in this area. So, I mean, like, it's an invaluable resource to have other business owners to network with and work with. And that's why when you said that the other day when we were talking, I was like, yes, that's what I need. I need somebody who's been in the trenches, who understands how to make a business work. I mean, you guys have been through a lot over here, and you've come out on top, and you're looking like gold right now, man. So, I'm really excited to work with you guys, and I can't thank you enough once again for coming on and helping us.
Thank you, boys. Y'all have a good one.
Absolutely. Once again, Brandon Banks here, one of our proud sponsors here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Let's take a momentary timeout, and we'll get things ready for wrapping up here. We got about 40 more minutes of coverage. But we're going to step aside, take a brief timeout. We'll be right back after this. Keep it locked in right here on Heart of Ohio Sports. All right, welcome back here. We're live at Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery. Nate Mullins, Greg Kinn, and Joey Krajewski. Thanks for tuning in here for our draft coverage. We had a great interview with Brandon Bankshear, the owner of Benchwarmers Restaurant and Delivery here. A very productive conversation off the air, too. I mean, talking about how, he's really he wants to get involved, and he wants, they need some help here. Obviously, they got staffing issues just like everybody else in Tiffin, but we talked about his family atmosphere that he has here and the different people that he's got on staff that have been here for, you're talking about years and years. Since this place has opened, he's got pretty much the same staff that he had, except for, there's a couple people that aren't there, but if you want a great place to work and you want good people to work for, come check out the people here at Benchwarmers. Fill out an application. Tell Brandon that you heard about it on Heart of Ohio Sports. I can't recommend these people enough. And we talked about it with Brandon off the air about how, he's trying to build. He wants to build a better location because he recognizes the limitations they have with this building, being a smaller location. They don't have the dine-in space that they would like. And he talked about how he wanted to possibly build another building here. And he has, the space to build it, but right now is just not the time to build anything. No. And if you're a builder, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it's rough out there. It's just building expenses, materials, everything's through the roof. Even as a restaurant owner, he knows everything's crazy expensive right now.
Nuts right now.
So once again, if you're listening to this, he threw it out there. He's like, hey, if you're listening, you want to know how you can help? We'll take a $400,000 investment if somebody wants to help us build,
Never know.
You never know. Just throwing it out there. Anything can happen. So, yeah, guys, let's talk about the draft. We're here. We talked about a little bit of the fourth round. Where are we at pick-wise here, Joey?
We are at the 30th pick.
In the fourth round?
Yep.
So now we're into compensatory picks, right?
Yeah, so we got 38 picks around. I think it's 4 through 7. I believe it's 38 picks. I think there's six picks added to each round. So we have the Kansas City Chiefs up right now. ESPN says they need a running back. I know they just drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Was it 2 years ago maybe? No, he was a rookie last year, so a year ago. I don't know. I don't know if there's much running backs left. I know Zamir White got drafted, the kid from Georgia. He went to the Raiders. I think almost everybody's copying the Browns with that 1-2 punch combo of having the two young studs in the backfield. I think people are trying to see what the Browns are doing with their rushing attack and trying to somehow figure out to do the same thing. So shows you the Browns are at least doing something right, but
I feel like they're doing a lot of things right, man, as I'm sitting here fumbling with this NFL app, trying to get it to work here. My apologies. I forget sometimes that it's video and I'm not on radio, so I'm like, I can do this real quick. Oh, crap. Wait, hey, how's it going, guys? So, once again, I'm trying to get this iPad up and running here, so we can get coverage of the NFL draft because that's what we're watching it on.
Well, we saw that the Browns just took a kicker there in this last round, and then what was it? A punter was just drafted.
Yeah, the punter from Georgia.
And I've seen a couple people comment already and be like, "Why are we taking a kicker in the fourth round?" Well, if you've paid attention to the NFL games in the last few years, look how valuable the kicking position is. Like you guys talked about, like sometimes you got to move up to get a kicker or a punter if they really have that something special. Because that'd be the difference between winning and losing games in the NFL.
Exactly. You saw the Bengals at the end of the year. They had, 3 game-winning field goals or something like that really jump-started that playoff run and took them all the way to the Super Bowl.
That kid was stone cold there at the end of the year.
Oh, my God. And as a rookie, too.
Oh, for sure. Evan McPherson.
Ice in the veins.
Do you see where he stayed out for the halftime show at the Super Bowl? And he got some guff
teammates didn't really like that, but hey, what are you going to do?
But, that just shows the level of confidence that kid has. Hey, it's the Super Bowl, and I'm not worried about making my kicks. I'll go check out this show real quick.
And, if you think about it on his behalf, what's the kicker got to be in there for it? Because, high school stuff like that, you get sometimes you get the rah-rah speeches at halftime for the comeback. But, NFL, you're grown men. You know what the deal is. And if you're a kicker, I'm going to assume probably halftime is when you can go out, touch up some things, kick from the spots you didn't get to in the pregame. If you kind of had an odd hold, odd snap or something like that, you can kind of fix it up. So typically I would assume those kickers, I've been to a couple Browns games, those kickers really aren't in there for halftime. So, and obviously during the Super Bowl, you got Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, all those guys
like
doing the
once in a lifetime performance.
So, cut the kid some slack. I'm sure he's never seen Snoop Dogg perform live. Who wouldn't stay out there?
What's he need to be back there for? They're going to tell him, keep doing what you're doing.
Well, and I think you mentioned it, like he does this every game. So it's not like it's something new that he just did for that game.
Yeah. They just caught it on TV one time, so now everybody's freaking out about it.
Whatever. He's a kicker. What's he going to do? Go in the locker room and practice kicks?
Yeah.
And what? Into the locker?
Speaking of the Bengals, here they are with their pick now.
There we go. What did you guys think about that Bengals magical run last year? Was that talent? Was that a product of talent, or was that a product of luck, or a little bit of both?
Maybe both. I think
it's got to be both. But it is every year.
Everything lined up perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Though. Oh my God.
That's what it takes to win a Super. You look at it every year. Every year, the team that wins. Granted, you might get those few odd years, but it's those teams that they catch breaks, but they also have the talent to capitalize on those breaks that they catch. And obviously, that combo of Jamar Chase and Joey Burrow that we're going to see for a very long time is unreal.
And the Bengals continue to add to their wall of China as they draft a tackle.
They see what they got. They got to protect it.
To help protect Joey B. That's an asset.
Yeah,
and if you're not going to protect it,
that's a feature right there.
Yeah. So
that's your franchise for the next 15 to 20 years. So
they pick up a big tackle from North Dakota State.
Right tackle?
I believe he played left tackle in college. But a lot of the video I'm seeing here is from him playing right. Yeah, he's playing right tackle there.
Nice.
So probably projects to be a right tackle in the NFL. Bengals picked a safety in the first round, cornerback in the second, and then they got a defensive tackle from Florida in the third, and now a tackle, offensive lineman, in the fourth from North Dakota State. So they've had 4 picks. The Browns have had 5 picks now, all of which in the last 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
No first round, no second round pick. But, stockpiling picks for the future. And I think with this current regime and the way they like to acquire assets, I think it's more, they don't really look at it as, okay, I'm giving up a second and I'm only getting 2/4 and a 1/6 or what. They see it as the number. There's like a certain draft value assigned for each draft pick. All right.
Yep, they're playing the analytical game.
Exactly. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to figure out, okay, if we can weigh this a little bit more in our favor, yeah, we'll give up this pick, but we're gaining more in the end.
Yep.
Because you talk about 3 4th-round picks. They got a 5th-round pick now. Well, they did have 3 4th. Now they got 2 4ths,
yep.
A 5th-round pick, a 6th, and 2 7th-round picks. Now, I still don't think they're going to end up with all of these rookies on the roster. Some of these guys are probably going to end up being camp casualties or whatever, what have you, because this is a very talented roster. I think 1 through 40, it's going to be really hard for any of these guys to kind of crack that 1 through 40. But you are going to have some kind of fringe guys at the end of the roster that might be able to make it. And that's why I don't think any of these 6th-round, 7th-round picks, they're going to have to be, those diamond in the rough kind of guys.
Exactly. They're those home runs that you're kind of taking a chance on. Maybe a guy that had a little off-the-field issues or the size, the height, the weight doesn't fit for his position, but, you're just hoping his play on the field can really make up for it. But at the same point, these 4 through 7 rounds, that's the meat of your roster at the same point. This is your special teams guys, those rotational guys that they don't make the big headlines, they don't have all the stats, but they give your star players breaks and they're not a letdown. Yeah. So, they're those guys that come in for, your Denzel Ward needs a breather, your Myles Garrett needs a breather. They're those guys that can fill in there and not have a letdown spot.
For sure. And that's why I like that guy, the defensive end they picked up yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
His name's
Alex Wright.
Yeah, Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yep, Alex
right.
Wright.
That is right. Yeah, I like that pick because he might not be a day one starter, but he is going to figure to be part of the rotation.
Yep.
And he's going to take some snaps away from guys like Myles Garrett and hopefully, potentially, Jadeveon Clowney.
Fingers crossed
hope they get him signed. I know that there's a rumor that the Chiefs are also interested in him as well. He'd be a perfect fit there, but, I mean, I really feel like that's an important signing that they need to get back into the fold. And, I mean, the right kid, he could end up being, a starter down the road. But I think they envision him as a rotation player right now. And, I mean, you look back on some of these teams that have won the Super Bowl over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years even, they all have dominant pass rushers somewhere on the line. And they all have a deep rotation.
That's the thing, is the rotation.
You can have that dominant pass rusher, but if you don't have that rotation to keep those legs fresh, those guys get tired out in the fourth quarter. Look what happened with Aaron Donald. Do you know why he had that energy in the fourth quarter? Because they had rotational guys coming in the second and third quarter, giving him spelling him on some of his snaps to where he could come off and actually breathe a couple snaps. They didn't need him to be out there for every single play. And that's key because you need those guys in the fourth quarter. You need those guys in those situations like he came up with when he came up big.
Yep.
And they needed him. I mean, if you need him to be able to draw from reserves, well, he's got to have some reserves to draw from. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So rotational guys are huge. What do you got, like, as far as because we're just about ready to start the fifth round here. I just saw the Patriots were on the clock, I think. Pick 137, I think, is where we're at. So as we approach the fifth round, sixth round, seventh round of the draft, obviously we're not going to stay here for the whole thing, folks. I have a meeting with our landlord. Hopefully this week, I've heard they'll be putting in our new flooring. So they moved up the flooring for our studio to be put in this week as opposed to 2 weeks from now. So now we anticipate being in there a little sooner. So that I got a meeting with our landlord today. We're going to talk about some things, and yeah, I need to get out of here before 2:30. Let's just say that because I got to meet with him at 3:30.
We got to get out of here before that too because they said TU's got graduation.
Exactly.
It
will be packed here. So once again, we're not going to stay for the whole draft, but I do want to get your guys' perspective. Greg, we'll start with you. Like, obviously, we haven't really been breaking down every single pick and getting into details on all these guys or anything, but over these next couple of rounds, what do you think the Browns need to do to address some of the position? Like, what do you think is their biggest position of need that they have to address in these next 3 rounds?
It's kind of hard to say what they still need here because I think they've done a good job of picking up some positional players here so far. Like, you guys keep talking about, trusting Andrew Berry, and, like, I really think the guy knows his stuff. I really think he knows what he's doing. He's got a plan. The plan is laid out, and I think that, for me, I'm just going to trust in him. I've liked what they've done so far. I don't really have any complaints. So,
you don't have any positions that you feel like they need to improve on?
I always think you can always put a little bit more guys in the linebacker spots in there on defensive tackles, but I know they picked one up already. So, like I said,
a defensive tackle. I'd love to see them add another linebacker.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt at all to get some new guys, some fresh talent. Like you said, rotation is the key there. So,
for sure. So, I mean, if you look at these. I'm looking at some of the guys that are still left available on the board, and I think they need to add another defensive lineman, preferably an edge rusher, somebody that can get after the quarterback. Because, like I said, I just don't feel like you can ever have enough pass rushers, and I feel like if you can find another edge rusher in this draft anywhere, the late rounds are the best value. I feel like, and there's some guys that are still on the board that could potentially be sleepers, if you will. I mean, I see a guy like, Tyreek Smith coming out of Ohio State.
That's what I was thinking.
Really stands out to me. He's still on the board. He's a local kid, and I feel like that could be a really good rotational piece.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a guy that I feel like hasn't never really realized his full potential at Ohio State. Like, he had a lot more to give than what he gave production-wise. And with the right system, with the right people around him, with the right training staff, I still feel like he has a lot of potential that could be unlocked. That's a guy that I've got my eye on. What about you, Joe? You got anybody?
Yeah, Tyreek Smith, definitely. Obviously, D-line, linebacker would be great. But, we also need help at receiver. One of the receivers I was looking at, Justin Ross from Clemson.
Okay.
Big body kid.
I can't believe he's still on the board.
Yeah, well, I think he came in the same class as Trevor Lawrence, and they had that unreal first year where they won the national championship. And he was his go-to guy. I mean, the guy's like 6'4", 205, 210. But the key about him is he plays in the slot a lot. So he gets those mismatches with the small safeties that he's physically bigger than. Maybe not faster, but physically bigger than. But then you also get a matchup with the linebackers. Well, they're kind of similar in size, but then he can really blow by those guys. Where I think with the receivers we have now, Amari on the edge, DPJ hopefully taking that next step this year, taking that spot on the other edge. Then we got, we drafted David Bell. We got Anthony Schwartz. That big body slot, I think, is what could really solidify this offense. Or, we know Kevin Stefanski likes to run those 3 tight end offenses sets, that 13 personnel. So, we could be seeing another tight end. I know the kid from San Diego State got drafted, but Coastal Carolina's got a 6'5" tight end that was a freak. I watched him play Appalachian State this year, and he had a 75-yard touchdown off what I believe was a slant route. As a tight end, that's 6'5", 250 is unreal. So
talking about Isaiah Likely?
Yes.
Yeah, that dude's a freak.
Yep.
He was another guy I had kind of highlighted was him and there's another guy. Let me see. I've got my notes all messed up here, but there's a linebacker that I was kind of looking at, and I kind of wanted to get your opinion. Let me see if I can find it here. I had it pulled up. Nope. Okay, so what about Malcolm Rodriguez? Oklahoma State linebacker.
Yeah.
That's a guy who's still on the board. That's a guy who I feel like fits into this system perfectly. I mean, you talk about Joe Woods, his defensive scheme, very rangy linebacker, can cover all kinds of areas of the field, and he's a thumper.
Yes.
So what's your thoughts on somebody like that bringing?
That'd be awesome. I mean, he's one of those guys that falls to the 4th, 5th, 6th round just because, he just doesn't fit the NFL prototype in size. I mean, he's a little smaller, a little undersized, but, those are the guys, you see like Devin Bush sometimes for the Steelers, where he dropped off a little bit last year dealing with injuries, but before that, he was a Pro Bowler.
For sure.
But he's an undersized guy, and that's where, these 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round is where you find those guys. And I think Malcolm Rodriguez would fit great in our offense, especially given, Anthony Walker Jr. breaks sometimes because, he's getting older in his years. I mean, he's been around the league quite a bit, so he's not an every snap guy.
There went Isaiah Likely. Gone. Raven.
Awesome.
Oh, of course.
He went to the Ravens.
Of course.
Awesome.
Give us another
right after we talk about the guy.
Yeah. This guy's a freak.
Yeah, look at him. That's probably that touchdown run that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Pass right there.
The fact humans can move like that is astounding. That guy's
a big kid, too.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
he looks like a receiver.
Yeah, so what I had him
Did they have him play in receiver?
So they would split him out a lot, and my pro comp that I had for him was
Darren Waller.
I did Darren Waller and David Njoku because you have to split David Njoku out, and he's built similar. Same David Njoku is obviously a little bit thicker now, just being in the league and being able to work out all the time rather than going to class. That would have been unreal, but the Ravens are the Ravens for a reason. That's a great pick.
Jeez. So I feel like the Ravens and the Eagles are crushing this draft.
Oh, my gosh.
And the Jets are doing a damn good job, too.
Yep.
Like, those are the 3 teams I really feel like are winning this draft. Another team, the Giants, I feel like are doing a great job, too. There's a couple teams that I thought, honestly, when the Giants came up for their 5th pick, I said, they're going to screw this up somehow. They're going to screw this up somehow. They're going to screw this up somehow. And then they picked Thibodeaux, and I'm like, oh, my God, they didn't. Wow, okay. Yep. And then I thought to myself, wait, Dave Gettleman's not in New York anymore. What am I thinking? They're not going to screw this up.
Somebody's there that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I thought those were good picks for the Giants, Jets. And like I said, I think the Eagles are my favorite as far as just killing it in this draft right now. Because to get Jordan Davis and A.J. Brown in the first round of the draft, you can't get much better than that.
Yep.
I know you had to pay A.J. Brown, but good Lord.
Yep. I also thought Buffalo. They've only had 3 picks thus far, but Buffalo's killed. They got the corner from Kiara Lam from Florida. They went and got James Cook, little brother of Dalvin Cook. the running back from Georgia.
Okay.
And they went and got an inside linebacker from Baylor, who was the fastest linebacker in the team. And I mean, their defense was make this make sense. They had the number 1 overall defense in the league. No Pro Bowlers, but they had 2 All-Pro safeties. Yeah. Gotta love the media, am I right?
Oh. Well, and honestly, I was watching, completely unrelated. This is basketball, not instead of football here, but I'm watching Draymond Green's podcast recently, and he's talking about Bill Simmons and basically how Bill Simmons uttered the words on a live podcast, F Jalen Green. And it's like, how do people like that get to decide how much a player makes? Because you think about it in the NBA, if you get an All-Pro or if you get an All-NBA,
oh my gosh,
if you get awarded an All-NBA, if you're on the All-NBA team, you are eligible for a Supermax contract. How can you make an All-NBA team? The media decide this.
That makes no sense.
So that, to me, it's like, so the media can decide how much a player is capable of making.
Yep.
You want to talk about just, I mean, that's got to stop. So, yeah, when you talk about the media, oh, my God. Like, I know I'm part of the media, but we're trying to create a new kind of media with this kind of, I mean, I don't want to be associated with people like that.
No.
You know? And Bill Simmons is a scumbag anyways. I can't stand the guy. I've never been able to like the guy. I can't listen to anything he says without just, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard to me. He's almost as bad as Paul Pierce.
Oh, the truth.
Ugh. Ugh. So, but no, him, I don't understand how some people have opinions and they're getting paid for them. And those people are then, they're in charge of whether an athlete can make it in the Pro Bowl or as
there's
an
a lot
All-Pro,
of money.
or I mean, it's just, yeah, you're talking about media affecting the money of athletes. To me, something's got to be done about that.
Right. I mean, I would figure that'd be voted on by the players and coaches or former players and coaches. I mean, that's almost.
Oh man, you want to talk about that? That almost makes too much sense.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean,
Wow.
that Bill Simmons. I mean, that's similar to the Aaron Rodgers situation this year, where the reporter said he wouldn't vote for him because he was unvaccinated, vaccinated, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, how do you? I mean, I get, like, whatever. If you want to actually think like that, whatever. But to come out and openly say that is astounding.
What is that, 10 picks there for the Ravens so far?
The Ravens have 6 fourth-round picks today. Okay, 6. They've had 5 of them already. And they took 2 tight ends. Oh, I like Charlie Kolar, too, from Iowa State,
Yep.
man. He was a great pick.
That Jalen Armour Davis is a great pick to shore up that.
Oh, man, they did a great job.
God, it hurts looking at that.
Wow.
That's
the Ravens
crazy.
just
They can
absolutely
they're gonna.
crushed
Oh my! They
this
have
draft.
Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the field at the same time. Are they ever
Yeah.
gonna throw the ball? I feel like they're just gonna run the ball.
Well, and that's. I mean, they just drafted 2 really talented tight ends to go along with Mark Andrews. So now you're thinking they can run 3. They can run 3 tight
And
end
traded
sets.
away Marquise Brown. I mean,
Yeah.
they have Rashard Bateman from last year, who, I mean, he dealt with some injuries, but we still don't know if he's that premier X receiver. You know, that number 1 receiver. So, and you got Lamar Jackson, and he's former MVP. I get that, but I mean, he's not as polished as the other NFL quarterbacks in the passing game, where he needs those receivers to help him out.
Right.
But and then, I mean, maybe they're just gonna say screw it and go wing T, throw it back to the old days.
Single wing, baby. Single wing.
That would be.
There's their final pick of the 4th round there.
Yeah, I seen Colombian running some single wing elements this year with Brody Conley.
Oh yeah, we got a little crazy with it sometimes.
Because I coach youth football. Greg and I coached the Eagles for the last 4 years, and I installed the single wing offense for the Eagles in my second year because we really didn't have any linemen my first year.
Yeah.
And we just needed to be able to get more blockers at the point of attack.
Yep.
And we knew we weren't going to be able to throw the ball very well. We didn't have very many receivers who could catch, and we didn't have very many kids who could throw. But we could run, and we could block, and we could tackle. So we were going to do those three things, and we were going to do them well.
That's hard to stop.
And that's when we just decided, all right, we're going to be the best we can at just running the ball.
Yep.
And we focused on single wing, and you put the ball in your athlete's hands, and you put more blockers in front of them. And
Yep.
I mean, it's a fun offense. It really
Oh,
is.
yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's just basics. It's, it's fundamental football at its finest.
little bit of trickery there when you disguise who's got the ball, and it's kind of fun watching everybody go one way.
Yep.
Yeah, just disguising things and, trying to you're just trying to confuse the defense. That's all. Mm-hmm. Give them different looks. But, it's a lot of fun. Obviously, you're a coach. You know all about it.
Oh, yeah. Got to love the old school. I mean, as a receivers guy, I got to act like I hate it because I like that spread stuff going 4 and 5 wide. But that single wing stuff, it's teams that run it well, those are one of the most enjoyable offenses to run. Exactly like when you see a misdirection, like a little counter or something like that, and the defense has and you just see a kid running free, I mean, that is just – granted, I mean, sucks to be on the other side of that when you don't play it. But, I mean, when it's you doing it, that's some great stuff because then it's house call, baby. House call.
Nothing better than running power like 10 times in 12 plays and then hitting them with a fullback trap for 80 yards. It's like, gosh. Oh, yes, that's great. I love it.
I would love trap. Fortunately, we don't use it at Columbian. Shout out to Coach Cole for that one.
Well, hey, I mean, you got to make sure you got the right personnel if you're trying to run trap because that's not something that's easy to install by any means. I mean, even with kids, a lot of times you're not really installing it right. You're just telling them where to go and hoping they go there, Like,
oh, yeah. Exactly.
This is what you're looking for.
Yep. Just find somebody in another color jersey and smack them.
That's right. So, I mean, we're almost done with our draft coverage here, but I feel like we had a great time. I mean, this was awesome. A blast here today. Thanks for coming on with us, Joey.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having
your time. Absolutely. We're going to do this more often. Once we get in the studio, we get things set up, and we start, doing some podcasts because we haven't announced it yet, but what better time than now? I mean, we can go ahead and come out with it. We are going to be doing a podcast. It'll be a weekly podcast. It'll air every Monday at 8 p.m. And then I'll be bringing back my morning show. I'll be bringing back Mulling It Over as a morning show, I should say. And that'll be every Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. So we'll find some way to incorporate you into the show, into the family somehow, because, I mean, you got a lot to offer. You can bring a lot to the table, and we really want to have fresh, new faces involved, and just young talent is always a good thing to have, man.
I love it. I'm excited.
For sure. So, I mean, we're just about done, but we still got about 5-10 minutes that we can kind of talk a little bit here. Any final thoughts before we kind of wrap it up? I mean, we're almost to the end of round 4 now. We're at pick 142. And let's see. That puts us at, what do we got, like 4 more picks left in the 4th?
This is the last pick. We're at,
okay.
I got 138 or 143 on ESPN. We're at pick 38. So we got the Titans going.
So
then,
with the Browns,
Patriots went with a quarterback.
Yeah, they took that kid from Washington State, I think.
Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky.
Bailey Zappe. And Browns got pick 13 in round 5. That'll be interesting. I mean, because the Browns, I mean, we don't have any blatant, glaring holes to fill. I think we kind of covered those.
That's what Greg was saying just a little bit ago. He's like, I don't know really what you want me to say. Like, there are no weaknesses.
I mean, everything feels right.
Yeah, I mean, besides kind of polishing off some position. I mean, center could be one now that I think about it. Since we let go of Tretter, we're going to start the backup center. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but,
Nick Harris.
Yep. Getting another center in there would be nice, especially a young guy. It's always good, and especially guys that can play, a center and guard each side. That would be obviously most ideal. I know the kid from Arizona State, Travon Walker. He's a kid I had listed. He's like 6'3", 300. He played both center and guard in college, each side of the ball. So
I know Travon Walker was a really good cornerback for Heidelberg as well.
Hey, he would. Don't tell him that. He might get his head too big.
He played pretty good quarterback at Columbian, too, for a little while.
Yeah, he thinks he can throw the ball. He thinks so. He does it on scout team sometimes until I got to step in and kind of show him what's up.
Show him what's up. All right. So, I mean, with the Browns' next pick coming up here, what do you got? Like, about 10 picks, 9 picks until the next pick. You got the pick after Dallas. What would you, if you were the Browns GM right here, who's your pick? You got a lot of different choices on the board.
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys that are kind of like on the big board, I guess, if you want to call it that. My question is this. Are they in a position where they don't need to take a quarterback at all? Because you got Dobbs, you got Brissett, you got Watson. is their quarterback room set, or do you maybe take a flyer on a quarterback here in the late rounds? Because there's a couple guys that I don't really like any of them, but I mean, I wouldn't mind throwing away a 7th round pick if,
You never know. I don't know if I would. I mean, we got those 3 that we're going to have to pay. And then, I mean, we're already paying, because you think about it, if you draft a guy this late, you're paying the veterans more. So you're either going to pay a veteran more to stay at home and be on the practice squad, or keep the rookie on the practice squad, where it's kind of like a lose-lose situation. I think the Browns might be in a spot where they just go best available on their board.
Running back was one of those positions that I kind of highlighted. I thought they were going to take, and they haven't yet. Do you think that's a position maybe they look at?
I think that might be, because I know running back's pretty deep this year, and we haven't seen them really fly off the board like most years, where those 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds, those kind of meaty rounds, where we see running backs kind of fly off the board. We haven't really seen that this year, so this might be the year of the undrafted free agent running backs. Or they might go running back. Also, I mean, defensive back wouldn't hurt, linebacker, but then again, they could surprise us. I know the kid from Bama, the corner, Josh Job's still there. He's one of those underrated players. So
I don't know if he's still on the board, but one guy that I kind of had my eye on, the Notre Dame running back, what's his name? Kyron Williams.
Oh, yeah.
That's a guy who, they need a pass-catching kind of running back. I know Demetric Felton was who they thought might be that guy last year. He kind of faded down the stretch. I don't know if he hit the rookie wall or what it was, but, I think that's a position that they identify, that they know they need depth at. And with Dearness Johnson possibly moving on, no team made him an offer. So the Browns can come back and adjust their offer and make him a lesser offer now. So they're going to be saving money with that. But when I look at this draft, there are some guys that really kind of stand out to me, and Kyron Williams is one of them, and he fits that system, what they try to do. And like I said, they identify that pass-catching running back as a role that they like to fill in this offense. Kareem Hunt on the last year of his contract, Dearness Johnson potentially on the last year of his contract. These are a couple of guys that, they're probably looking to replace. So running back might be a position where I see them addressing here in the next couple of picks.
Yeah, and as much as Browns fans, we'd love to keep them at this. I mean, those guys, Kareem Hunt, he is way too good to take
be a backup.
Yeah, to be. I mean, he's going to go somewhere, and he's going to be a number 1 running back, and he's going to rush for 1,200, 1,500 yards and score double-digit touchdowns. I mean, he is way too good of a running back to be playing behind Nick Chubb, and that's just a compliment to him. And
see, I was one of those crazy Browns fans that said, because at the beginning of the offseason, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a rumor that Christian McCaffrey was going to be traded, and that the Panthers were shopping Christian McCaffrey for a 2nd or a 3rd round pick. And I thought, well, if the Panthers want Baker, why don't you just give Baker and Kareem to the Panthers? You give us back CMC.
Oh, that'd be beautiful.
And
I just wish he didn't pull a hamstring every year.
That's true. That's true. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But to me, as a Browns fan, I love to play fantasy GM and say, who can we get?
It's so much fun.
Saquon was available at one point, so I'm like, oh, let's go get Saquon.
Right.
No, we don't need these toys. We don't need all this extra.
That's so much money you got to spend.
I know. But in the situation that you're talking about, they still need to address that running back position. And like I said, this is Sam Howell gone. Went to the Washington Commanders. Sam Howell, the Baker Mayfield light.
He might be able to play quite a bit this year.
Does he look just like Baker? I
Great
swear,
value, Baker Mayfield.
Almost same
It
size.
even says Baker
It
Mayfield
says
on it.
Baker Mayfield right there for the
That's
comparison. He looks just like him.
That's
When he
impressive.
plays, the way he plays, everything about he's a spaz just like him. And he's got a pretty big arm too. So good pick for the Commanders though. But like we were talking about though,
Running backs
is a position. I think that's something that the Browns are going to address here in this draft. They just haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going running back, I'm going to throw one at you. The former Cincinnati running back, the Bearcat, Jerome Ford, he was at Alabama originally, transferred to Cincinnati, was a monster for their offense this year with Desmond Ridder. He's still up on the board. I mean, that would be huge if we could get him. Obviously, he's going to need some development and some time. And it's still the draft. We don't know about these guys if they're going to make it or not. But a guy like that, give him the opportunity, I think would be wonderful as a Browns fan.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, man. I think there's a couple guys that I kind of identified before we came on today that I wanted to maybe see if they were available. A couple of them already gone. So I think, like you said earlier, trust AB. I'm just going to trust Andrew Berry and know that we're in the right hands. We're in good hands with him. Mm-hmm. And like you said, Greg, I mean, I don't really see a whole lot of weaknesses on this team. So let's just hope they go best player available from this point on, because they got their kicker and they addressed the positions that they really needed to address. So
your boy Matt Ariza's still on the board.
We'll see how long. It's 5th round now. This is punter territory.
Oh yeah.
So he could be gone by the time the Browns pick next. But would that be something that they would be, that you could see them doing though, going kicker and then punter back to back?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of skill positions, and there's still a lot of core players that are still on the board that are really good players that we could definitely use on our team, and especially when we just signed one in free agency and then just drafted a kicker. It'd be a stretch, but
I really liked him coming out because I thought he would be one of those rare. I haven't seen one in a long time, but one of those rare instances of a guy who could do double duties. He could punt and kick.
That'd be crazy.
Because that's what he did when he was at San Diego State.
Yep.
Yeah, he was their kicker. He was their punter. He handled kickoffs. I mean, he did everything.
Has a cannon for a leg.
Ridiculous.
You see that? He had like an 80-some yard punt or something like that in the Senior Bowl. Then he had a 91 yard or something like that during the season. Oh my!
Yeah, well,
that's insane.
Still not as big as the punt from the Heidelberg punter.
Yeah,
96 yards, I believe, is the record.
That's still the NCAA record, isn't it?
Still the NCAA record. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was ridiculous. Wind aided, but hey, we'll take it.
That's what it is.
Hey, it counts.
That's right. Nobody can take it away. All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we wrap things up? It's a little bit after 2:00. We've done our due diligence here, I think. Like I said, we weren't going to cover this whole 5th, 6th, 7th round because, well, I mean, we're not really covering it anyway. We're just kind of here watching it and hanging out with you guys. So this is just an added bonus coverage here today. We'll be back at it on Monday as we have a game to call. We're back at it with more high school baseball. Tune in on Monday right around, let's see, it is a 5:00 first pitch from Zip Zillar Field at Calvert Fieldhouse. That is Calvert versus Fremont St. Joe. Once again, at 5:00 first pitch. Tune in right around 4:50 for the pregame show. And then on Wednesday, we have another game. That one will be live from Bascom as we bring you the undefeated Hopewell Loudon Chieftains taking on the Tiffin Calvert Senecas. That's a 5:00 first pitch. And on Friday, that's right, we have a game on Monday, on Wednesday. And then on Friday, Columbian versus Norwalk. First pitch scheduled for 4:45. Actually, no, he said that was a 5:00 first pitch because there is a special event going on that day. I think it's Strikeout Cancer event going on that day. You're right, Greg. Nice drop in there. So, yeah, once again, 3 games next week, 2 Calvert and Hopewell as well. Hopewell versus Calvert on Wednesday. And then we have Tiffin Columbian on Friday. So more exciting high school baseball coming to you on Heart of Ohio Sports. Make sure you tune in on Monday, once again, right around 4:50 for the pregame show as we come to you live from Zip Zillar Field at Tiffin Calvert Seneca Fieldhouse. All right, guys, any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Nope. Go Browns.
That's right. Go Brownies. Greg, anything you want to add?
Yeah, this was fun. I'm glad to be here with you again, as usual, man.
Absolutely. This was a blast. Thanks again to the staff here at Benchwarmers for their amazing hospitality and for having us out here and allowing us to hang out with you guys because it's been a blast. And we're going to do this again. We don't know when, but we're definitely going to be out here again. We'll be doing more events out here, and we'll find a way to incorporate Benchwarmers somehow in the future because I've got some ideas on how we can utilize this space for some pretty cool events. Just my wheels have been turning since I've been here, and I'm like, man, this is actually really cool.
We can do some fun stuff.
We can do a lot of fun stuff out here for sure. So once again, Nate Mullins, Greg Kinn, Joey Krajewski, thanks again for tuning in here on Heart of Ohio Sports for this 2022 NFL Draft Special. Once again, tune in on Monday for more high school baseball. But for us today, well, that's it. We're signing off. Thanks for tuning in right here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Have a good day.